Codiumate is meant to help planning a task, writing code that is with high quality, according that's high integrity, fitting to the task. And then most importantly, like analyzing the code that was written or right now or a week ago or years ago and provide additional tests for it. While the PR agent is meant for last, review just before you merge your code. It helps you to analyze, describe, review, find issues at the point of the merge. So these are two tools, but like I mentioned, we're building a full platform and more tools are coming. There's going to be an exciting announcement a week from now and another one a week after. So we're going to be a multi-agentic system. That's CodiumAI.
Hi, I'm Craig Smith, and this is Eye on AI. In this episode, I speak with Itamar Friedman, co-founder and CEO of CodiumAI. CodiumAI is building a multi-agent platform to help developers achieve the ambitious goal of zero bugs and issues in their code. Itamar shares his vision for the future of coding, where AI assists developers by automating tasks, catching errors, and enhancing the software development process. We discuss CodiumAI's product, Codiumate, and how it leverages generative AI to improve code quality. Itamar also provides insights into the company's research, such as their AlphaCodium project and the concept of flow engineering. I hope you find the conversation as useful as I did. By popular demand, NetSuite has extended its one-of-a-kind flexible financing program for a few more weeks. Head to netsuite.com/EyeOnAI. That's EyeOnAI, EYEONAI, all run together. Again, head to netsuite.com/EyeOnAI. netsuite.com/EyeOnAI for its one-of-a-kind flexible financing program.
So first of all, great to be here, Greg, and it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to talk about an intelligent coding system of the future. Specifically, my name is Itamar Friedman, the CEO of CodiumAI, and at CodiumAI, we focus on helping developers reach zero bugs. It's a bit ambitious target, but that's what we aim to do. I think it's one of the hardest problems that being tackled these days with regard to software development. Actually, if I have to add two more words to our vision of zero bugs, I wouldn't add them to the left, but to the right. And what we're trying to do is zero bugs and zero issues. And for that's what we do. And in order to do that, we don't think it's going to be like one tool or one interface that's going to solve it. We think it's a complete code integrity platform. We're building a multi-agent platform for code integrity. We call it integrity because we want to encapsulate testing and issues and best practices, and that's what we do already today. First, we introduced two tools. The first one was introduced a year ago with already 500,000 installation in ID and JetBrains. Actually, I saw that we crossed the 600,000 just recently. And the second tool we released like half a year later, somewhere July, August 23, is what we call the PR Agent, which is a Git app for GitHub, Bitbucket, you name it, GitLab, etc. The first tool is meant for single developers to download from the ID JetBrains VS Code marketplaces, and the second tool is more for teams that they can download via our Docker or just download from our open source and connect or directly from the GitHub marketplace, by the way, and connect it to their Git, and that's more for the teams. They have different functionalities. One is meant to help with planning a task. The first one in the ID that we call Codiumate is meant to help planning a task, writing code that is with high quality, according that's high integrity, fitting to the task. And then most importantly, like analyzing the code that was written or right now or a week ago or years ago and provide additional tests for it. While the PR agent is meant for last, review just before you merge your code helps you to analyze, describe, review, find issues at the point of the merge. So these are two tools, but like I mentioned, we're building a full platform and more tools are coming. There's going to be an exciting announcement a week from now and another one a week after. So we're going to be a multi-agentic system. That's Coding AI.
Oh, that's amazing, actually. This coding generation space has really fascinated me because I'm not a coder, first of all. And I'm hoping the day will come when I'll be able to type into a platform and it'll write code accordingly. And it feels like that's coming. What was your background before Codiumate or Codium?
Yeah, sure. I'll have to share about myself, but I have to say that I think that CodiumAI is like my life mission, of course, in addition to the family. And so like I usually identify with that. So my background, I actually started, not my first job, but one of my first was actually in chip and system verification. And when you like in Mellanox, one of the most successful Israeli companies, eventually sold to NVIDIA. A big portion of NVIDIA today. So what I did there is basically verifying that when you take a piece of hardware, bits in, bits out, according to the spec. And interestingly, because the specification is so well defined, then you can even do apply techniques such as formal verification. You can almost for 100% mathematically prove that a certain hardware module is working as expected. That was like my early first steps in my career. I also did a bachelor and master degree in machine learning and optimization, etc. And that kind of led me to think, how can we apply some techniques? The hardware people have a lot to learn from the software, agility, etc. But that's what people say. But also, the software people have a lot to learn from the hardware. In my opinion, for example, testing, verification, etc. So I was thinking, can we apply into software what we did in the hardware? And the answer is it's complicated because as opposed to bits in, bits out, now you have human in, human out. The entrance point is user stories. This is how people develop software, and then there's interfaces. So that's my career started by doing that, and then moving to machine learning and doing software and thinking about this process. Eventually, I founded two companies. I was CTO in both of them, VC-backed startups. And then one of them, the last one, was acquired by Alibaba Group, and I joined Alibaba Cloud mostly, and we built amazing stuff, including, by the way, magnificent failures. But we also had a couple of huge success, and one of them was building an O2ML solution, fine-tuning machine learning models, LLMs, vision models, etc. And that was during 2017 to 2021. And we realized that AI, and before that, by the way, I was embarrassed to call AI. I always call it machine learning, but finally AI is arriving, and now finally we can start trying to apply testing, more holistic approaches for testing, verification to software. And that's after a few years at Alibaba, I left and started CodiumAI with my partner, and also a meaningful team from my past. And that was BC, before ChatGPT, but just before that, it was August 2022.
Yeah, things happen so fast in this space. First of all, before we talk about the products, on code generation generally, I mean, so much has happened with generative AI, and I presume that you're using generative AI. And you mentioned the user story, that it starts with software starts with telling a user story. Do you think it's possible that the day will come when users, obviously highly trained users or developers who understand software structure and the precision of coding language can code in natural language. And one of the reasons I just got a pitch from a company that's developed, and it sounds like they're not the only one, a new language that's a further extraction closer to natural language that nonetheless is precise enough that it can then code or write code. I mean, where do you think we are on that journey, and do you think it's solvable?
Short answer, it's going to happen, but not now, and now not in the next year, and or at least not. It wasn't solved yet, despite all the videos that we see on X or TikTok or Instagram, whatever. Okay, so now the longer answer. So I think, first of all, we need to separate between the Upwork tasks that are separate, independent tasks that you, for example, build me a small website or change my page from here to there, to the convoluted, complicated software, enterprise software. And it's totally different scenarios. It's different in how the tech stack look, what's the software development lifecycle, etc., and even what tools will be used, and what kind of AI is going to be used. So if I go first to the professional consumer approach, for example, freelancers, etc., then I think we saw a few videos that then also being debunked, but despite being debunked, I think in 3 to 5 years, I think those companies, and there are more than one, maybe even more than 10, are working on this angle of enabling you to do Upwork style of work. Then I think in 3 to 5 years, you would be able to monitor as a professional developer. You would be able to monitor AI developer that is doing a lot of work for you, and all you need to do is babysit and here and there fix it. And for some tasks, it could be working well enough that even a technical product manager or a technical person that is not necessarily a developer might get a good result and communicate with that let's say agent. And so it's coming. So that's I want to say, if you saw the videos, it's not working right now, but I do see a path that it will work in 3 to 5 years. Now, for enterprise, it's going to be totally different solution, totally different approach. In software enterprise, it's not just about providing you a piece of code. It's going and approving the entire process that software needs to go in order to be moved to production in enterprise. Let me elaborate on that. But first, let's imagine a world. Choose a Fortune 100 company. You name it. Think about one. Imagine one. Now, imagine a technical product manager sitting in that company and trying to tell an AI about a new feature that he or she wants to add. And that AI generates that code. And then do you imagine click a button and it's moved to production? Just like that? I cannot. I think we're missing one very important part of the platform in order to enable that. It's a platform that all it's meant to do is to verify the correctness of the AI, that the code that was generated by the AI that matches the specification that was required by the technical product manager, as well as saying that nothing else was broken. So the world I imagine in 3 to 5 years in enterprise, yes, a technical product manager writing a specification with 1 or even 5 tools, depends on each one of them might be specializing. And then a platform that a dashboard, imagine, check, all of these specifications are checked. All the other critical mission checked. All the things, okay, we're ready to go. And that's how I do imagine it happens 3 to 5 years, where in some cases, either the code generation part or the code integrity part will say it doesn't work, send it to a developer. Okay. And then a developer comments. So developers are not going to disappear. It's just going to have like more challenging tasks than before, because the simple ones, or 50% of them could be automated with technical product, managers doing the work. So that's how, um, I see the future evolving. And that's of course aligned with our vision and mission at CodiumAI. We are the solution, the code integrity solution. We are actually the leader there, and we're planning to enable any company. Like we want to be in a ubiquitous tool that any company can utilize, with any software stack. We can integrate to any CI, any Git platform, any ID, any code spec, like Jira or whatever, and then we want to enable this future we talked about. Like if we would be able to be ubiquitous and for any enterprise, then they can use whatever code generator they want and get that confidence that they can release code that was generated by AI.
I just wrote a piece for Forbes. I think you're in which I mentioned Codiumate. In that piece, I talked to a company that automates unit testing for Java, and that solution sounded the best among the code testing generation platforms that I was investigating, and it uses reinforcement learning, as does AlphaCode, the code generation research project by DeepMind. I don't think they've productized that yet. First of all, on the one that I sort of focused on in that piece, it's called Diff Blue. What's your view of that? Is that a solution for unit test generation? They only do Java. That could be applied to other languages? And is there anything in their approach that's similar to what you're doing for test generation?
Yeah. So first of all, I didn't try their tool like rigorously, but I do like what they're doing, from what I see. And basically, I think there are a couple or a few companies in the unit testing area, where we also provide like solutions, and I like it because I think it's one of the testing in general is one of the most painful part. Like, let me like open a brackets there. I think the world's divided into two. Either you don't do enough testing and code review. For code review, for example, you have 20-40 minutes quickly review. You don't do enough of that because you hate it. It's like you like writing code. You just want to write your code. Or, so that's one part of the world. Or you're in the other part of the world that you do spend a lot of time in testing and coding and you still hate it. So the fact that people like hate this part, although they know it's critical, whether it's unit testing, integration testing, etc., that show how important it is. So I actually like it. There are a few companies there, and in one sense, it makes sense to me, like to use reinforcement learning. I think they use it for trying to understand how they can increase code coverage. At the same time, I think like these companies that started prior to 2020, some of these technologies are kind of outdated, or to say it more nicely, not exploiting the latest breakthroughs in AI. And for example, let me give you a different solution called Test LLM by Facebook. It's again a research paper that was not like open source, was not publicized, was not made public. Similar to AlphaCode by DeepMind, was not made public. And what they did there is like kind of a similar solution. They went over pieces of code and took like tests that already exist and enhanced them automatically. And I think that their solution uses the most up to date AI, much better, much more friendly, faster, etc. And it happens to be that one of the tools that we're going to release is actually very similar to that approach of Facebook. And that leads me to two things I want to say. I think about the field. First, I think it's a big problem until today that you have so many tools and companies doing a small part of what we call code integrity or code testing, but it doesn't work. You need a holistic solution. Like it's not like a perfect equivalent, but before Datadog, you had like mini tools like CloudWatch by AWS that give you portion of the cloud observability, but you needed a holistic tool like Datadog that have sensors all around the place that gives you the full image. And I think testing or code integrity also requires such holistic. You can't just have just for one language for one piece of the testing, which is unit test. You need a holistic solution for. Usually, most companies have few languages just in one company, and they have more than unit test requirement in order to actually solve bugs, etc. So that's what we're aiming at. That's why I told you that we're building a multi-agent, an agentic system. 2 agents are out, 2 more are coming soon. It's going to be quite a few. Each one of them has different flows. We already have more than 25 flows, 100 in a year. Now, the second thing I want to mention is that DeepMind and Meta are definitely like a huge AI powerhouse. So I would definitely follow them with their AlphaCode and test LLM. Having said that, we kind of want to build real products. So while DeepMind released a research work that you cannot reproduce, we released AlphaCodium, which is our take on AlphaCode to reach better results and open sourced and got a lot of buzz. We got a Karpati talking about it, but most importantly, it's open source that you can reproduce and try it. And similar to Test LLM by Meta, I think by the time that this podcast will be released, it will be out. We will release an open source of it. So if you like to be in the meta level engineering, where they have such a system, you would be able to use our open source for that. So for us, we take this advanced research and make it into tools that actually can be used. So back to your point, I definitely agree that these kind of companies like Deep Blue, they have very advanced, like mature solution, but we need a more holistic that has many flows in order to give us the confidence that one day we can generate AI and really believe that we can publish it to production, because another tool like did a rigorous work through different processes and not just unit testing. And that's I think could be an extremely important property like of an intelligent coding system of the future.
Can you talk a little bit about AlphaCodium? We spoke previously, and as I recall, you were saying that it beat AlphaCode, or at least had better results in, I think, public.
Okay, sure. So first, let's define the context. Yeah, I learned too much from the LLMs. Let's put the ground, lay the ground. What's the context? So similar, like there's a website you can play chess against humans or computers, etc. So there's also like a website platform that enables you to do like participate in code contests. It's called Code Forces, and DeepMind have defined a benchmark that is mostly being extracted from that platform. It's called Code Contest Benchmark, and then they tried to automate a machine that solved these problem of the code contest. This is very DeepMindy to do. They're amazing. We obviously are like admire them. It started. I don't know if it started, but one of their very early works that were published was Alpha Zero and AlphaGo, competing and doing better than the world leader, the world champion. And then later they did AlphaFold and Alpha Zero, etc. I probably missed a few or confused there, but they did quite a few. And then they did AlphaCode. And I think that's a game changer because AlphaGo is like a bit of a closed system. Once you have AlphaGo, okay, but once you have AlphaCode, it means that AI could generate code in the most perfect situation. It could generate additional code that improves itself, etc. So I'm just like giving like why I think it's a different ball game. So I totally see why it's a DeepMind like project. So it's not surprising they did AlphaCode 1 and 2. So basically, AlphaCode was doing quite well. AlphaCode 1 was doing quite well, but AlphaCode 2 did, and published on December 23, like even did better than the majority of developers. But they have a problem there when AlphaCode 1 and also AlphaCode 2. The problem is that first they extensively run LLMs in order to solve, like, do LLM inference in order to solve one problem. In AlphaCode 1, it could be like a million times for one problem, inferences. And the second thing is they fine tune their models for a specific context. And I think this is a problem because it shows how not generic enough, in my opinion, their solution is. So this is the background. We built on top of some of their ideas. That's why we wanted to give them credit. We call it AlphaCodium, and we did better than them if you put a point on a graph, in a sense that with less LLM calls and with no fine tuning, we do better than them. And that's, I think, a huge achievement because it means that probably it's generalizable. You can take it to different problems. With now fine tuning, probably it will work. Probably, I mean, because we didn't benchmark on many things, but we are integrating the concept into our tools and we see it work. So how did we do that? To simplify, two main things. One, something we called flow engineering, like from prompt engineering moving towards flow engineering, and I can elaborate. And the second thing, the fact that we integrated into these flows, like code testing and code reviewing methods and aspects that we have like a meaningful know-how there. So and with that flow engineering concept and like testing and code reviewing, we also did, like, our system AlphaCodium did better than a majority of developers with a click of a button, and you know where it's going towards to. Like, that's our AlphaCodium number one. Yeah, let me know if to double click on flow engineering or so.
So AlphaCodium is a research project. Or is it integrated into your product?
Yeah, great question. So it is a research tool that it's first of its kind in the sense that you could use it to reproduce our results and actually compete in code forces, while others that competed there, for example, DeepMind, OpenAI, did not. Like, you cannot use their tool so easily. So it is a research tool. Having said that, we published like a paper and a blog post and more like material about principles of what we applied in AlphaCodium, and that we are integrating these concepts. We're integrating into our variety of agents. And let me give you one example. A week ago or so, we released, and it actually was accepted really well on social media and by our customers and users. We released a new concept of coding with AI. What you can do is, first you can plan with our agent. This is, by the way, not so new. Admittedly, saying like I can't recall like exactly, but I think, like, for example, GPT Engineer, amazing team by Lovable, shout out here. They, for example, introduced like the concept of planning before you start a coding task, for example. So our tool, the Codiumate and the IDE, first and ask you to plan a task before you start coding. Now, when Codiumate helps the developer to plan a task, it does it in a way that's similar to AlphaCodium. Okay, it tells the developer, give me your task, but then now let's iterate to make sure that the specs that you're trying to achieve are clear, that you're planning a new piece of code that is testable and etc. And like it helps you like build a plan. By the way, that is connected to your existing code base. Like our agent Codiumate actually helps you enhance existing code base, which is relatively rare. Most other agent we talked about it like helps you build new stuff. Here it helps you to enhance existing code, and after it helps you planning like step by step. Now you can use Codiumate code completion, which is similar to Copilot, etc. But the code completion is task aware. So when you come to a file, it's almost automatically completes what you wanted before you even needed to prompt it, because it takes a look into the plan and works accordingly. So that's a similar concept and behavior to what's happening in AlphaCodium. In AlphaCodium, what we did, very different from others, where most solutions are doing prompt engineering. Give me the problem. Let's find the best prompt, iterate over it to provide a solution. In AlphaCodium, what we did, no, let's work like a developer. What a developer would do is like 100 steps or so to solve the problem. Okay, let's read the problem. Let's see, I understand it. Let's think about like all the edge cases of it. Yeah, okay, now that I know about it, let's think about which different solution I can apply. Let's think about the pros and cons of each solution. Okay, let's imagine a pseudocode. Let's think if this pseudocode is actually fitting the problem. Okay, let's try to build a solution. Let's think of etc. There's like various steps there in our flow that was engineered. We don't let AI decide about these steps. That's different than what it was the common case before, where AI decided about the step with chain of thoughts, tree of thoughts, other techniques, and this way of thinking is like that helps us to build AlphaCodium. Also is being applied to our agents with various flows, and one of them is the one I described in Codiumate that helps you plan a task and then also like execute it with a code completion that is task aware. Obviously, like similar to AlphaCodium, when after you complete writing, you can also test your code, etc. That's also something that Codiumate helps. So, bottom line, recap: AlphaCodium is a research tool. You can actually find full code, full open source, reproduce. It's not meant for enterprise. That's for playing around. And then the concept is being integrated into our various agents.
In that explanation, you explained flow engineering, which is the planning, right? Is that, do you use LLM for that?
So basically, giving again a bit more context, what we're basically doing is shifting from system 1 thinking to that system 2 thinking. Like unfortunately, Daniel Hallman just passed away. I think a couple of months ago, and that was really unfortunate. And he like framed this like in his book, coined this term, like system 1, system 2, right? Thinking fast and slow. That's the name of the book. And the idea here is that system 1 is like intuition, right? It's like LLM inference, right? Let's admit it's a bit of what we're doing here in the conversation. We're kind of like an LLM now. The context of what I said 2 sentences ago, like flows and like prompts me to continue what I'm doing. That's like the system 1, and that's what we do with LLMs. That's what they're so good in conversations and that simple question answering, because that's basically what we're doing. I admit I'm not sure I'm smarter when applying system 1 than the best models and that are out there. And the system 2 applies that you have a process, you have a flow where it helps you to make more intelligent decisions. And I think as people, we apply it many times when you're thinking about career paths. We don't do that when we drive, but when we're at work and want to think about an architecture. And there's a lot of research about board, executive, board of executive, etc., where if they come into a meeting and they just need to make a decision, yes, no, somebody presented and they vote, they will get very bad results comparing to a flow where it was decided how decisions are going to be made. The fact that decision is not going to be made over one option, whether 3, just as an example, and like it really boosts the result. So all that background coming to say that what we're saying is that when the board of directors are coming to make a decision, they actually do come with a flow, with a process that maybe they learn from experience or from Stanford or whatever. And it's quite rigid. Like, this is the flow. And within the flow, everything changed. What is the topic we want to do? What is the decision? What is the options? There's a lot of flexibility there. And that's what we did with the flow engineering AlphaCodium. Like, we designed a flow. It's rigid, like each step following the next. But within it, we use LLM to generate options that fits for each step, to generate the analysis for each step. But we do not let it decide about what is the flow and what is the type of the decision that needs to be made. And I claim that we human and good processes also do that. And I actually talked with a couple of professors around the US and the States, and they were like, they smile and said that that's what they teach also, like how to make decisions.
Copilot and these LLM based code completion or code generation systems are trained on, I mean, the underlying, the foundation models trained on, massive kind of undifferentiated text data that includes a lot of code, and then they're fine tuned on code, but the reason they are code completion and not code generation, purely code generation systems, is they tend to hallucinate even in small ways, and or generate errors and encode that those kinds of errors can then cascade into larger errors. Why don't and you can talk about the LLMs that you're doing in this? Why doesn't someone train an LLM on a massive corpus of verified clean code so that it doesn't have any bad code in its training set? And then wouldn't it then be much better at generating new code?
Yeah, great question and idea. So first of all, I think I hallucinate when I talk quite often if you don't let me use my system too. For example, when I think about something, I want to verify it. I go Google it, search, ask people. That's what I call system two, because I'm actually using my tool to make a decision. And otherwise, I think I hallucinate quite a lot, unfortunately. Like I try to, by the way, to put probability on what I'm saying, and I make mistakes often. So especially, actually always, but especially when applying system one. So I wouldn't blame the LLM. It's whether how we use them. You can use LLM today as a system two and ground it, check. Put a flow that checks the results, and if it's wrong, similar to how I could be wrong if you let me use only my system one, let it fix the answer if a different tool or additional information found it wrong. Okay, I just wanted to say that it doesn't contradict, in my opinion, what you said. I think there are companies and solution that try to like clean data and then training the model, and then it will bring better results. You can try to do that for code generation, and it might produce better code. And for example, I heard that GPT-4 Turbo, the latest update, does better on code than the previous one, etc. But you just won't solve the problem with inference once. It's like you'll get better and better results, but you won't solve it, because eventually you have to have a system. You want to call it agent or not, doesn't matter. Like we use agent because we do use tool, etc. But the more important concept is the flow idea, and the LLMs. The more they become better, it enables like a system to reach its capacity, reach its potential. But you will need a system to eventually get to a point where you generate code that works. Okay. That And by the way, when you say good code, that's different between different companies. Different people would consider different code. So again, you will need a system that knows to extract what good code means for different, people, different companies. And again, that's sorry for pushing like a shameless plug, but that's what we're focused on. Extracting, understanding the specific enterprise requirement and best practices in order to influence an LLM, etc. Now, last thing I want to say is that would you give the idea of cleansing code, extracting, collecting, cleansing code for better code completion? But there are other opportunities here to extract and clean code for better code review, for better code testing, etc. And actually, there's a huge potential because current models are actually quite stuck in that. Sorry, like because think about the way they're trained. They're trained of here's a piece of code, here's a missing token, try to complete. This is almost perfect for code completion. The task that is being applied, code completion, actually fits really well the task of the way that these models are trained. But when you think about code testing or code reviewing, you don't just complete. You take a piece of code and now you need to look at it from the side and say, does this work or not? So the reason that the models are doing something, even without fine tuning, something reasonable, is because they do understand something intrinsically, implicitly about the world, and they're also reading a lot of blog posts, etc., that does talk about it, but still they're not good enough. And then if you do collect data that is relevant specifically for code review, for code testing, and train it accordingly, not necessarily the same way that we're talking, maybe a bit differently, some of the secret sauce, then you can get powerful models that are fit for that. I can tell you that we have Fortune 100, even a Fortune 10 company running our model on-prem, air gapped, because that's what they care about. And they get a model that is, I would say, according to our benchmark, at least as good for GPT-4 Turbo, last edition for our task, and arguably maybe even better on-prem, air gap. So that's unimaginable, unheard. You can't do that with Code Llama or something like that.
Well, let's talk about your products. So is it two distinct products, or is it sort of two problems that you focus on?
We see it as what's publicly available. We have more that our clients are using, and we're going to publish some of it soon. So what you see is two agents that are part of one platform. In our enterprise edition, by the way, they are connected and they share information, but are free and Teams. What's publicly available, you don't see the connection; they're separate, but they are covering different pieces of your software development lifecycle, the point of where you touch your code in different places. One is Codiumate's IDE plugin for JetBrains and VS Code, for example, and the other is we call PR Agent, which you connect to your GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, even Azure DevOps, which is a contribution we got from one of the biggest companies in the world, because it's open core, and even though they are the creator of one of the top AI assistants out there, they're still using our tool because it's so unique and different. So we got even a contribution from there to connect to Azure DevOps. So basically, our open source or free are independent sub product, but the full platform and enterprise get, they're actually a system that connects between them and share data. So to put it simple, developers are writing code and they love writing it, and now what they hate doing is analyzing it, testing it, and that's what it does for them. It creates analysis of what we call behavior coverage, natural language description of branch coverage. That's actually what it's doing. And then from there you can generate tests and give you analysis. I just talked with a few developers, for example, in Mercado Libre, which is one of the companies we have dozens of users from there. And that's what he told me. Like, we just love like the fact that, code that we didn't see for a week or two or someone else code, we immediately come and understand it and get analysis for it and then generate tests that would take me 10 days. I can get it done in 2 hours, etc. Because you can create a huge amount of tests like in a short time, sometimes 10 days, sometimes maybe it's 1 day, but in 2 hours, you'll get like much better coverage. So that's what the ID extension, ID plugin, which is called Codiumate. The Git app, what it gives you, it's more than a dozen of commands. By the way, the ID Codiumate also have more than a dozen, but I focused on the testing for a second. And before that, I described the plan tasking and the code completion. There are more than a dozen commands. Now, focusing on the PR agent, there is more than a dozen commands that you can run on top of the Git platforms. And that's including describing a pull request or analyzing your pull request and then building like a walkthrough and dictionary or book. And that's extremely important for the persona, the code reviewer, not necessarily the person who developed the code. And here, let me share a meme that is very famous. Like, if you give me, as a reviewer, if you give me 20 lines of code change set, I'll give you 5 comments. 50 lines, I'll give you 2 comments. 500 lines looks good to me. This is a problem. Okay. Right. So that's, we want to empower the reviewer. So you'll see a dozen of commands, like half of them are for the reviewer to analyze and understand better the PR. And then like what we help there is at the point of merge, we help like the reviewer or the AI catch things before they are merged. So bugs and issues, etc., and best practices. And this is both of the tools, especially the PR agent, is highly customizable to the company's best practice, which is also like an enterprise edition, being like even a more dominant property. Yeah, so that's what we do in CodiumAI.
Yeah. And can you talk about are both sides using generative AI and what models are you using? Are you using your own LLMs, or are you accessing, or can the user choose the foundation model that they want to use? And then are you using reinforcement learning in some way with either side of this?
So first of all, we enable a few modes of using models. We enable using OpenAI or soon other models that are reached finally to the level of or close to the level of OpenAI models, or using our own model. But this enablement is done only for the enterprise that they can choose. Otherwise, for the free users, we enable only OpenAI. By the way, they don't need to enter their keys. They use our OpenAI. So it's like mostly for free. And basically, we use the best of breed of OpenAI models. You might think that GPT-4 Turbo, the new one, is the best in everything, but there's other trade-off to consider. And that's about that. But again, this is free for enterprise. We do enable from a selected set of models. We have 2 optimization processes. One is for the model itself, and the other is more for the system, where we like generate flows. And I wouldn't say that we per se use the traditional reinforcement learning PPO or whatever techniques that is used to train models to play games. For example, our training process is much more similar to LoRa style, and fine tuning and training LLMs. It might be slightly different because of things I mentioned before. So not per se the traditional. It's weird to say traditional because reinforcement learning is relatively like the latest epoch is is like 3-5 years, but that's what I mean, like traditional, not the Q learning or something like that. It's not being used by us.
What's sort of the message that you would like listeners to take away? And feel free to be promotional. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, that actually, so let me say two things. One is for, if you are a developer or engineer, etc. And then you're seeing all these either videos or me talking, etc. I'm not saying that's the same thing. I think a bit more pragmatic. I would say that I wouldn't be actually so afraid. By the way, some of the people that are creating buzz is interesting. It's GitHub, right? They're showing features where you just write your what you want to do, and do everything is being done for you. So I would say I wrote Thomas, the CEO, that I'm quite surprised from with Copilot. They were so pragmatic, and suddenly they're trying to, I think, push the border with reality a bit. So I think that I would be I would be very thoughtful and skeptic about some of the videos people see, I wouldn't so quickly hurry that being afraid that your job will be taken. At the same time, I think you must start exploring and exploiting AI, because how you're going to develop in 5 years is going to be very different. It's more be like a cockpit. By the way, similar to how you do cloud today. Think about how you did cloud 30 years ago. Today, cloud is a lot about orchestration, and in code development is going to be a lot of orchestration. And you need to go into the details only once in a while, similar to how it's being done on cloud. And so that's my suggestion for developer, and for the enterprise. What I suggest is think what's your biggest problem. Is it developer happiness, which we all care about, or is it bugs in production that might cause outages or a huge amount of you can lose reputation, or huge amount loss of productivity because half of your sprints are fixing stuff. So I would say choose what's your pain, and then find the relevant AI tools, not the other way around. Don't go around, oh, I want to use Gen AI. I hear that a lot. No, go with what's the pain I want to solve, and then find the right hammer. And not, okay, there's a cool hammer here. Let's see if it fits for me. So that's my suggestion. Only slightly promotional, because I think eventually it is on the side of a bit slightly promotional, because eventually I think that what we see is that eventually people understand that there's enough research, and if you put thought in it, the real way to boost productivity is via improvement of quality of your code and quality of your processes. And that's what we do at CodiumAI, CodiumAI.
That's it for this episode. I want to thank Itamar for his time. If you want to read a transcript of today's conversation, you can find one on our website, IonAI. That's EYE-ON.AI. In the meantime, remember, the singularity may not be near, but AI is changing your world, so pay attention. By popular demand, NetSuite has extended its one-of-a-kind flexible financing program for a few more weeks. Head to netsuite.com/IonAI. That's IonAI, EYEONAI, all run together. Again, head to netsuite.com/IonAI. netsuite.com/IonAI for its one-of-a-kind flexible financing program.